This is number 3 in a series from our security team from here at IITS. The first 2, if you joined us, were on SEP. That was about a month ago, and then about 2 weeks ago we did one on DLP. Today we'll be focusing on another Symantec product called CSP, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But first, a little bit about us. We're IITS partners, and we have been, as the slide shows, focused exclusively on the endpoint, particularly security and endpoint management. We've got a number of awards under our belt to prove our expertise in the field. The slide here shows awards up through 2011, but we're very proud to announce that we were just awarded again Symantec Partner of the Year, so that's 4 of them we can rack up there. And of course, we're also a master specialized partner. That means that we have an awful lot of certifications on our belt, under our belt, excuse me. A lot of the engineers, all of the engineers are certified Symantec specialists, or certified Symantec consultants. We have more certifications than any other partner. So if you're looking for a partner in Symantec that knows their stuff, you've certainly come to the right place. And in spite of the fact that we're considered a small to medium-sized company, we have worked with some of the largest companies in the nation, and including some global partners. So before we get to talking today about CSP and what we can do to protect our endpoints, particularly CSP is geared for the server, but you can certainly put it on a workstation. I think it's helpful to talk a little bit about the threat landscape. And when I talk to other folks in the security team here and outside the company, we talk about frequently about the Symantec Threat Report, the Internet Security Threat Report that comes out once a year. And there's just some when you look at this, there's absolutely stunning numbers that are out there. This report, by the way, comes out once a year. The latest version was just released just a few weeks ago. If you go to that URL at the bottom of the slide there, you can get the latest version. But it's also relevant when we look at these reports. It's also relevant to look at past reports, because what that shows us is not only what's going on right now and what Symantec is noticing in their global network, but also what the trends are. If we can compare to last year or the year before and then see what's happening in subsequent years, we can see what's going on. So, for example, in this slide that we're looking at, this is based on the 2011 Symantec report, which is data from 2010. But look at these numbers. Almost 5,000 new vulnerabilities, 4,500 web attacks per day blocked. I mean, some of these, they just boggle my mind, some of these numbers. But again, if we look at this in comparison, one of the things that was a little bit surprising was the downward trend in AV detections. And this is not that antivirus is going away, but it's still a huge threat. But what this is showing is that antivirus is dropping as a percentage of the total picture of threats. So even though there may be more threats all the time, antivirus only accounts for, in 2010, approximately 50% of those threats. But still, from year to year, the actual number of antivirus detections continues to rise. But this is interesting because Symantec, and I haven't had a chance to look at the latest reports, but Symantec is anticipating this number as a percentage of the total threats to continue to move down. So what does that mean? You can see the yellow bar there, IPS detections, the intrusion prevention. There's less virus being written and more attempts to actually break into our networks. One of the other reports that I like to look at a lot, that I think is a lot of good information, is this report right here from Verizon. They do a data breach investigation report every year. Again, comes out in April. Again, the new one was released just a few weeks ago. It's available from Verizon. If you go to their website, they freely share this information, and it's a really good read. As you can see from this slide, that the Verizon report, unlike Symantec, Symantec runs their own global network of collecting information, and Symantec has millions, maybe billions of dollars invested into this network. Verizon undertakes this with the help of a number of international teams, and you can see on the slide here what some of those teams, individual units that contributed to this report. For the 2013 report from Verizon, there are even more contributors to the report, and for the first time, it also includes academic groups. I think I read it was Carnegie Mellon University that participated in the study. Very interesting, because they're getting a very good cross-section of the users. So let's get a little bit behind the numbers from the Verizon report. And the next few slides here, these are going to be numbers right from that Verizon data breach report. And again, that's from the 2012 report. That was last year. And so that's going to reflect data from the year before. But so we look at these numbers, and there's not a real big surprise here on any of these numbers, at least in the top one. The outsiders are still dominating the scene when it comes to corporate data theft. More than anything else, it's organized criminals that are behind the majority of these data breaches. However, one of the groups that's kind of coming up is the activist group, the bottom line there. And it's interesting, because they stole more data than any other group at 58%. They stole more data, and what that serves to demonstrate, to me anyways, is that it kind of changes what's going on here, and that not only is there organized crime, so not only is this monetized, that people are behind this for good old-fashioned greed, but now we're starting to get some other things into the mix, like ideological reasons, apparently. So I think you probably heard today that, and you probably hear every once in a while, how China is constantly being implicated into data breaches in the U.S., and they're constantly refuting this. But anyway, it's interesting to watch. As I said, when we look at the data from year to year, it's interesting to watch these trends. And as security professionals, it's important that we understand these trends, and that we're kind of ahead of the curve, as it were. So the numbers at the end of each one is the change from year to year. So while number one, the 98% was from external agents, that's up 6%. The next one beneath that, the internal employees, is actually down 13%. So that's what the number in parentheses mean. That's the change from year to year. So incidents involving hacking and malware were both up considerably last year. I don't have those change numbers, but hacking is linked to a lot of the compromised records. And it makes sense, right? These threats, these actions are the favorite tools that the bad guys used. And remember from the slide before, these are the guys who are behind most of the breaches. And a lot of the attacks, they continue to thwart or circumvent authentication by combining stolen or guessed passwords with backdoors. So it's interesting to see, again, some of these attacks that are going on, and how the breaches were perpetrated. So remember from the slide before, our internal agents, that was down quite a bit, and so that, given the drop in that, it doesn't make a, it's not a big leap of logic to see that the result from privilege misuse has gone down as well. But social tactics, again, it's the good old-fashioned go to the front desk and just ask for the information you're looking for, and you might get it. That's it's responsible for a significant amount of data loss, and I think that's important. So where do the commonalities exist? Boy, this is to me, this is the slide that is that we should be embarrassed about when we see this slide. As security professionals, these are the numbers. This is the part of the report, and both the Verizon report and the Symantec report, that is just more than just a little bit of an eye-opener for me. The findings from the past year show that target selection is based more on opportunity than on choice. And most of the victims fell prey because they were found to have an easily exploitable weakness rather than because they were pre-identified for an attack. So 79% victims of opportunity. This is like a gang of thugs walking down the street and they're trying car door handles, for example. And if it's unlocked, they break in. And if it's locked, they moved on. It's a target of opportunity. So this is the embarrassing part as a security professional for all of us. It's like, wow, if we just did something, we could cut down on the number of attacks. So I don't know. That's just me, I guess. But as I said, it's a little embarrassing. But regardless of that, whether the attacks were targeted or not, the majority of the victims, the second line there, they fell victim to the attack because the attack itself wasn't that difficult. And those that were on the more sophisticated side usually showed that trait in later stages of the attack after initial access was gained. I'm going to show you a slide in a minute. That's another eye-opener to me. But taking all that into account, it's not surprising that most breaches are avoidable. 97% is what they're saying here. And we just have to do something. Just do something. Luckily, maybe some of these things don't need to be necessarily expensive or terribly difficult. The last three, or the last, or the not the last one, but the next two, the incidents discovered by third party and how long it takes to discover a breach. Boy, that's maybe not as embarrassing as it is scary. Some evidence of breaches usually exists and victims don't discover their own incidents. Third parties clue them in, and unfortunately that happens weeks or even months down the road. And the last item here is 94% of all data involves servers. Well, you know, I read that and I thought, well, duh, you know, that's where we keep all the good stuff, right? That's what people want to break into. But look at this next one. This is a quote right out of that Verizon report again, and it shows that the server, while it's the end target, was not originally the main point of entry into the network. So the attackers are going after a less protected, or maybe even a poorly protected endpoint, and from there trying to gain access to the servers either through being able to discover credentials, admin rights, or admin login password, or whatever. And here again, unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast. As admins, we tend to put everyone into local admin. We give everyone local admin rights on their machine. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, but the bad guys know this too. And so again, more often than not, it was the endpoint that was the initial foothold into the system. Okay, here we go. This is Symantec Critical Protection System. I'm going to give you a quick run through the interface. I promise not to take too much more of your time. I hope to leave a few minutes at the end of our time here. I was asked to keep this to a half hour, and I see that I'm quickly running out of time. So Here's the interface, Symantec Critical System Protection. If you've seen it before, I apologize. Along the top, we're going to see a bunch of icons, and what we'll notice is a similarity in a lot of these in that there is, in the upper left-hand corner here, we'll see a prevention and a detection mode, or individual views for each one of these. So, for example, if I go to assets, not only will I see which assets are being covered with a protection, or excuse me, prevention mode. Here we go, under Windows, and then we also have a view for detection. Now, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to cover one thing that went back to the slide that we looked at earlier, was the pivoted attack. Someone gains access to an internal machine and either tries to exfiltrate data off that machine, having admin credentials, administrator rights, or they're going to try to move on to other machines in the network. I'll start out first. I'll just change over to a Windows 7 machine here. Here's the setup. We have a machine that has somehow been compromised, whether it was someone leaving the keyboard unlocked, or it was compromised externally, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But what we're going to do here is, first I'll just start up a quick browser here, and I'm going to browse over. You'll see that I created a folder here called bogus application, and within that I've got some config files, and here I have some text and a users list, and I would like to see that list. So I'm going to open that list. It says the access is denied. So how can that be? Let me go back here and check and pop open just a shell here a minute, and I see that I'm administrator. I'll just do a quick who am I, and yep, I'm an administrator, and actually I'm a domain admin here from the example.org. This is a little fake domain that we've set up here. So what's going on here? I have administrator privileges, and I can't seem to get to either of these two files. Well, the bad guy says, that's okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these files because I can see them. I'm going to try to FTP them. Oh no, access is denied for FTP. Well, again, how can that be? I'm administrator. What if I were to, let's pop open another Windows shell, or another, and I'll run the command from Windows. And now it says I can't find the specified device. I don't have the appropriate permissions, even though I'm administrator. Well, this isn't my demo getting tripped up on me. Let me just exit out of here. And I'm going to go back to CSP. I'm going to show you how that was set up. Under policies, I have a prevention policy for my Windows 7 machine. Now, admittedly, this is written specifically for this demo, but I'll show you very quickly what it looks like in the actual policy. There's two places that we're going to look. One thing that I've configured in CSP here is that the program FTP, I'm going to go to interactive programs. That's an interactive program. That's a program that's launched by the user. And there's a setting here that programs that should not be allowed to start. If I click on the edit, I'll see what I have. And I've put in FTP. I didn't pick FTP because it was easy or anything like that. I picked FTP because it's very ubiquitous. It's on nearly every installation of nearly every software, every OS that's out there. It's in Linux, it's in Windows, it's in Mac, you name it, FTP exists. Because of that, FTP is a favorite tool for the bad guys to get data out of your network into theirs. By blocking it, I've just said here in CSP, this program should not start. This is a feature, what we witnessed here earlier, this is a feature of CSP called privilege de-escalation. So even though I was logged in as an administrator on the other machine, that was a different machine, just a workstation, even though I was logged in as administrator, I could not start that. I could not start that program. Let me go to a different section of the file rules for global policy, the file rules. I have block access to these files, all access, block all access to these files. And you can see that I've set the path to the bogus application config and then the star behind it. That means anything in there. If I edit this, if I take this out and just make it bogus application, and then I just change this, we'll go back to the assets and we'll see that Windows 7, excuse me, we'll just wait just a minute here, and Windows 7 will just show up online. It means that the new policy has been exported. Oh, but before we do that, I forgot one thing. Go back to this production policy. That's a really great thing that we can turn those things off. But what if you truly are an administrator and you truly do need to have access to that workstation, to that machine? You need to access those files, or you need to access FTP for whatever reason. Well, one thing that CSP has built in is a policy override. And you can see when I hover over it, I can choose users or groups that can override. And so in this example, the person that's allowed to override is me. I'm not an administrator on the machine. I'm not a local administrator or even a domain admin. I don't have any type of elevated privileges whatsoever. So let's jump right out of this a minute. Go back to our Windows 7. Let's just start the Windows Explorer here again. And if I go to bogus application and config, I still won't be able to open this. Can't print it, can't open it, can't do anything. But what I can do, start the policy monitor, and then if I come down here, oh, nope, I forgot to do something. Hold on a minute. I need to log off as myself, or log off as the administrator. And then I will log back in as myself. Remember, I don't have any elevated privileges. So what we just witnessed is that I just logged off from the machine from a domain point of view, and I started the machine with a local user account. If I start this up, and you can see it's me. Who am I? Will. So not a special user, no administrative purposes. If I try to start the FTP program, I get the exact same thing as before, because remember, we had it blocked. But also remember, I'll just start this. This is the ability to override the policy that's in CSP. And remember, I was the only one listed as able to override the policy. So administrator can't do it. No one can unless it's specifically allowed within the policy. So I have been, and without changing the prompt, I'll now start FTP, and you can see now I have full access to that program. I'll also start a Windows Explorer here, and I can go to the config file and actually see the users list. And this is a bogus users list. These are things that we couldn't do before because of the CSP. We don't need that anymore. Okay, if you do have any questions, you can certainly feel free to email me. Here's my email address. There's also my phone number. If you have any questions or anything pertaining to CSP or anything else, you can contact me here. Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks for attending. I hope you found value in this, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much.